Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Stephanie Roothouse, the Director of Customer Marketing at Replicon. I'm joined by my colleague Scott Bales, who is the Director of Solutions Engineering. We'd like to thank you so much for taking the time to join the webinar on optimizing your professional services organization. I know most of you are customers, but I would like to give a high-level overview of Replicon in case you haven't spoken with us in a while. Replicon is the leader in cloud time tracking applications. Our solutions are used by millions to manage all types of time tracking needs, such as workforce attendance, projects, programs, professional services organizations, and shared services resources. As a customer, you're in great company. We have over 7,800 customers of all sizes and industries, such as Facebook, Xerox, Moody's, and GeoDigital. So our customers are using Replicon because they're getting real tangible benefits that generally fall into the following three categories. First is greater insight. Human capital represents 70% of a company's expenses on average. So having insight into how employees are spending their time and what projects they're working on really helps take time tracking up to that next level so you can understand how the workforce is performing. The second is lower compliance risk. Whether it's compliance for labor regulations or compliance for project-based businesses, Replicon enables organizations to have that information you need to defend audits. And the third is optimized business processes. To move from manual to automated allows organizations to do more with less, fewer resources, and really focus on activities that are much more strategic to your business. So Replicon delivers these capabilities through what we consider our four unique differentiators. Replicon is 100% cloud-based with no hassles of maintenance. So as you know, you enjoy features being delivered continually with new updates. So you can really focus on your business and not on software. Replicon is also one platform for time tracking across really a lot of different functions in an organization. It's extremely easy to use, allowing for really high end user adoption. And finally, Replicon's no-hassle commitment ensures you are running smoothly by providing 24/7 customer support and also a dedicated customer success specialist for technical challenges. So in terms of the four market use cases that Replicon addresses, you'll see them here on the slide. Professional services management is the first one. We help these organizations capture billable time, keep track of projects, manage resources. It's really helping ensure fast and accurate billing. The second is project and program management, which is also project-based time tracking, but doesn't include that billing and client management aspect. And this is for organizations that need to focus on time tracking for internal projects, such as internal development projects, driving efficiencies, or tracking capital expenses for tax purposes. The third is shared services management. So this tends to be for larger organizations that have centralized functions such as IT or marketing departments that provide services to other internal departments as a shared resource. So often they need to track how much time they're spending on each of their internal clients so they can report back on service delivery, but also potentially also do chargebacks. And finally, time and attendance management. This is not project-centric time tracking, but time tracking really focused more on driving payroll, managing things like calculating overtime, ensuring labor regulatory compliance, such as meal breaks, and managing absences. So wanted to just actually start now with a poll question. If we can move to that, would like to get you involved and actually would like to understand from you how you track employee utilization today. So on the right-hand side, you can see a poll question with some options here. Do you track employee utilization through Replicon Web Resources? Is it homegrown? Is it Excel? Is it a package system? Is it more the honor system? Is it other? So we'll give about 30 seconds to kind of just see where most attendees are tracking employee utilization today. So Scott, what are you thinking? Where do you think the majority will indicate what they're using to track employee utilization today?
I think that I think I'm confident when I say that we're going to see a lot of Excel from a response perspective with regard to the polling response here. 6 out of 10 customers that I'm speaking to about our professional management or professional services management product, they are tracking that utilization, but it's usually in the form of Excel, and we're going to make that a lot easier for them with the PSM product.
And by PSM, Scott's referring to professional services management, just one of the acronyms that we use for that solution. So it looks like we have some votes in. I think it wouldn't be a bad idea to actually just show results. I guess there's a couple more coming in. What it's looking like, it's interesting, Scott. It does look like Excel is very heavy with looks like 21% of respondees, but Replicon Web Resources has a 34% rate. So it looks like there's a lot of Replicon Web Resource customers on here, which is the former solution, and those are two top ones right there. Interesting. Okay. So we'll take that information as we proceed on with the webinar and tailor to that. Next slide, I just wanted to show, I wanted actually just to present you a data point before we dive in and have Scott actually show you more on Replicon Resource Management in professional services management. And that is basically this data point that we have from Dimensional Research from a research study that they did this year around resource management. So they found that 32% of solutions they researched really lacked visibility and insight into resource usage. So that really led to underutilized resources. Interesting data point. How can Replicon help with that? Let's see it in action. So Scott, let's turn it over to you. Let's see if we can show some of the great resource management functionality we've been hinting at, and which should help our customers be able to optimize their professional services organization.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Stephanie. As we make our way to that resource tracking and utilization component of the tool, we're gonna stop along the way and kind of showcase some of the newer features. We do have a gamut of customers that have been using our product for years versus just new to the Replicon platform, and some of you will see a big change from an interface perspective. So I want to talk about that briefly as I walk my way through to the resource management. And what we're looking at is a look and feel change that the product went through about a year ago. Our design and our philosophy around that was to represent a much cleaner experience for the end user that made it very easy for them to find specific projects and tasks that they were assigned to, and to reorganize it so that it was more of a role-based interface. You can see at the top here specific menuing based on perhaps the role that I play within an organization, and what we've tried to do is group common features or functionality together when we are referring to things that users do in the product, and they're really tied quite tightly to their specific job. Now, one thing we're going to notice from a PSM perspective is the ability to track more detail at a client level. Those of you that are familiar with our product understand there are clients associated with your professional services engagements, and something that you web resource users have been crying out for years is some kind of a client attribute related to your resourcing of projects in the web resource tool. So what we've done is we've listened to you, and we've really created this client-centric tabular type dashboard which you can use to get high-level information about all of the projects that apply to a specific client. You have the ability to drill down and start seeing some of our new graphical reporting, showing us representations here, a trending analysis over time of estimated versus actual hours, and we'll see what drives those estimates in a moment. But it's not just hours, it's also costs that we can see now and into the foreseeable future, along with billing. In billing, there's two aspects that we can leverage here. One is billing amount versus the cost amount for any given period of time. And we can also look at actual versus estimated billing. So if we wanted to understand what our forecasted billing was going to be into the future, we could also have some idea of that. And then last of all, make sure that our resources were aligned with that growth. And resources on a client-by-client basis is representing here how many resources we have working for that client over time. Okay. So what we're looking at here is, again, trending analysis on a per-client basis, but the ability to drill down into specific projects is also available. Okay. From that client interface, I can then drill down into specific projects and understand, again, the trending that is now tied to that specific project within the system. Okay. So you can focus your investigation and analysis, and you'll notice that at no point in time did I have to go to reports to get this information. The paradigm around the latest version of our product is exposing and bubbling up that data through the interface and not forcing you to go to reports to get all of the details that you need. Okay. in alignment with that thought is the ability to create project teams. And this is nothing new. All of our products have always supported a project team, and those of you that are familiar with WebResource understand how a placeholder works. The placeholder is simply a specific role that you need to fill with a user, but you don't know who it is at the time. The system now supports the inclusion of that within the project team definition. Okay. Now this screen only tells us who can enter time. The allocation screen is where the rubber meets the road, and we start telling you how much time a specific user is going to work on this project. Okay. Now this is just this project, so I only see these users that are related to the project here, but this view is showing me a weekly representation graphically over time of how utilized my users are. Okay. The white space corresponds to availability. The blue corresponds to how much of their time they're working on this current project, financial data reporting fixes. And then the green, if you're using our time off component, will show you their availability based on time off entered within the system. Okay. Now this is just one representation that can be from a percentage perspective or a bulk hours perspective as well, whatever makes the most sense to your organization. And we can also look at this on a monthly view if you're looking at a less granular representation of that. Okay. Now this information is great from a project perspective, understanding how your team is being utilized on your project and maybe what else they're allocated to, but it's not a global view. Okay. Up at the top here you'll see the resources tab is going to indicate for us all of the users in the organization. And that list can, of course, be filtered because it's going to be very hard to analyze this for every user at once. So you can filter this list down to specific users, down to specific business units, even filtering down to projects if it was required. Okay, the same capabilities and configuration exist. We can look at this graphically. We can look at this either monthly or daily as well. And we see some color coding here in addition to just utilization. We can see the status of projects. So the light blue corresponds to a project that is tentative. It is not in progress yet, and that helps to give you some insight as to whether or not you want to choose to overbook a resource when it comes to their availability and what they've been allocated to previously. I can mouse over any... Yeah, go ahead.
We have a couple questions coming in just for clarification and context. Can you clarify once more where you are, what solution you're using in the Replicon platform?
Sure. So, and what may be an issue here is customers on the previous resource management product. We are within the Replicon Professional Services Management solution. Okay. So that is essentially, if you're a legacy customer, that is the capabilities associated with our TimeBill product plus resourcing and allocation of resources within the tool towards projects. And that is an element of the professional services management solution, which also includes all of the TimeBill capabilities. Does that help, Stephanie, based on the context of the question?
I think it did. Thank you so much.
Not a problem. Feel free to interrupt me again if that's not being clear. Okay. The other item I want to point out that's strictly related to resourcing is those placeholders that we had the ability to set up on the project are also shown here in their own dedicated view, so that we have the ability to go in, filter this list for specific roles, and as the resource manager for developers, I'm now able to see at a glance who needs my development resources and where, how long they need those resources for as well, so that I can find the right resources, even filtering by specific availability of users. Clicking the placeholder gives me a swap screen that lets me find very quickly and efficiently available users to meet my requirement need in the top row of this screen. Okay. Selecting the user and then replacing them allows that to happen, again, very efficiently. Not a lot of back and forth, not a lot of, hey, is this person available? It is one centralized location that gives you visibility into who's working on what and where. And again, that visibility is across all of the PMs, so they know, and all the resource managers, so they're aware of potential conflicts. And that's what this is indicating here, is an over-allocation based on the daily hours of a given user. Okay. Now, from a professional services perspective, we also have the integrated billing component, which is going to allow you, client by client, go in and take advantage of specific hours that may be ready for billing, specific expenses that may be ready for billing, and create new invoice objects. And what we're doing here is producing these invoices and sending them off to a financial system to generate a soft copy or a hard copy of that data. But the important thing is we store that information here as well, so that you can report out from a billing summary perspective what your outstanding balances are for a customer, what you've invoiced for a given customer over a period of time, and understand at a high level what remains to be billed. Okay. Now, like our existing and previous projects, reporting is exposed, and Web Resource customers are going to love the fact that we've now moved to the platform that supports report manipulation. So what you're able to do within the system now is understand, for example, monthly resource utilization. This may have been a static report in previous versions of our product, but what you're now able to do is run a report, and Replicon customers from the past know this. You can go into that report, you can adjust the settings, you can adjust the fields that you're reporting on, etc., from within the tool. Okay, so again, any columns I want to adjust here are available to be modified. I can add or remove columns from this report or add different levels of grouping. Okay. Now, at a high level, that's what I wanted to speak to within the product today, just to give you some context for questions that we want to take on. It sounds like there's a lot of them. So what I will do at this point is bring up the Q&A panel so that I can see the types of questions we have. And I'm going to go right back up to the start here. Okay, and these may be questions related to what Stephanie was prompting about. But does this apply to all projects in Replicon? Is a question from Lori. Does this apply to all projects in Replicon? Meaning you could look at all clients in one view if needed? Yes. We could also, in addition to the client filter, there was business unit filters at the top of that resource screen. There was specific project filters at the top of that resource screen. So you are able to see those resources based on those filter settings. Okay. Lori's also asked, what is gray? And I imagine that's based on the project level view. The gray on the project team was simply an allocation to another project based on visibility and permissions. Your project leads may not have access to that information, but they do know the user's allocated elsewhere, and that's what that gray represents. Okay. Troy Hendrickson, can you sort on availability of resources? Right up here at the top of resources, you can choose to do just that. Sort by availability from one month to the next. The next question is, Lori again, where do you enter the data to populate these reports? The report we were looking at, Lori, feel free to drop in another question if I'm not answering this correctly. The data that we were seeing on those reports is driven through an allocation here. So Paula, for example, is assigned to one or more projects. We can add an allocation to her right from here. Choose the project she's allocated to. Continue. Choose a specific date range that we want to allocate her for, and then the number of hours per day. Okay. So again, 3 selections and a mouse click, and that allocation has been set up. I would say that that's a lot better than what we were doing in Web Resource previously. Okay. The next question is from Elizabeth, stating her version of Replicon doesn't look like what I'm presenting, and I think we've addressed that issue. This is our professional services management edition. Elizabeth, we'll follow up after the webinar so that we can make sure that you have access to see all of the elements that we've been demonstrating today. Robert, does the system support the three common invoicing types: um, flat rate per hour, cost plus, markup, and complex rate sheet? So I'd say that the complex rate sheet is supported, Robert, within the system. The system has added fixed fee billing as well to this version. We are planning to add additional billing types from an invoicing perspective, including milestone billing and some of the invoicing types that you selected here or indicated here, including cost plus markup. Percy is asked, has the integration with Microsoft Project changed? It has. That integration has been completely rewritten for this solution. It is still in the last phases of testing, but we do have resources within the organization that can demonstrate it for you. We've moved to an add-in architecture, which is simply leveraging the platform within Microsoft Office that lets us put a plugin there. So now within Project, you're using a plugin to connect to our system and synchronize projects with a button click, as opposed to the arduous setup that we had in the previous version. So the feedback that we've had so far has been really positive with relation to that. Okay, we're using Replicon Gen 2. Was your presentation what they call Gen 3? It is our latest version. So yes, it will look a lot different than the product that you are currently running, Manuel. So we can actually walk you through the process of migrating to this platform. We can test your data on this platform and give you access to that as due diligence before you move over as well. So that's something that you can speak to the sales rep about. Next question is Jean. What drives the user showing up as a resource in the views? Meaning, where do we select them to show up? So all of the users that are within the system show up in the resourcing views. The only thing that would prevent them from showing up are the filters at the top of the screen, representing specific skill sets or specific business units or departments. Okay. Manuel's asked if this is another product, even more advanced. It is not a straight across move from the version you're running, Manuel, to this one. There's also an additional component over and above that. So we can speak to that specifically when we speak again next. Steve's asked, can you show which employees are assigned to a specific project? That would be done in one of several ways from the project screen on the actual team. So I could do that right here in the financial data reporting fixes on the team. This is showing me who is assigned to this specific project. Allocation shows me how many hours they're assigned to this project. I can also see that globally at the resources screen just by choosing that project as well. There they are. Okay. Next question from Gerald. How do we use the placeholder resources tab? I can see there. So the placeholders resources tab is a listing of all the placeholders or outstanding resource assignments you have on your projects. It is there and represented to show you specific gaps in your resource pool. Clicking the name of the placeholder brings up the swap screen that I walked through, showing you the available users that you could potentially replace that role or that placeholder with. Justine, and there's going to be a lot of questions that we're not going to get through just based on the list here, so I do want to just let everybody know that we will respond to all of your questions if you've entered them. But we'll keep going, get through as many as we can here. Robert saying, is the complex rate sheet supported by client, i.e. every client has a different rate book and structure? It is. You even have the ability to define default rates at the client level, which wasn't supported previously. And those default client rates are then brought over to those client projects automatically, of course with the ability to override through exceptions. Justine, I missed your question. It says, how does the create invoice work? Does it interface only to specific accounting systems, or does it create invoice, produce a file? It integrates today with a range of accounting systems, but it isn't actually producing that file yet. We've produced it in this way as a first release. It will produce that actual invoice object that you can print out and save in the near future. Okay, Manuel, we're having very basic issues and problems with reporting different clients because the multiple bucket system will repeat all assigned hours to all clients. So Manuel, I'll have one of the support reps follow up with you and speak to that. I will point out that the system doesn't support that multiple client interface in the latest version. So we need to understand how you're using that and see if there's a better way to capture that data that may actually kill two birds with one stone and eliminate your multiple client issues, and also allow you to move to the latest version. Jennifer, from a project perspective, can you capture project baseline plans and keep to compare against a pre-planned adjusted project plan? Right now, that's still a manual process within the system. The extract of that data and storage of it externally is how we would propose that baselining structure. The other option is also to leverage Microsoft Project, which we do integrate with, so you can maintain that baseline from a Microsoft Project perspective, allowing the latest version to appear in Replicon. Does this integrate with Primavera P6? So the system does have an open API that we can leverage and expose all of the data. There were several limitations with previous versions, and WebResource had no API to speak of. So there's a programming interface that we use when we're going to Primavera, we're going to other Oracle solutions from our product, and so we can leverage that for P6 integration if required. Okay. Can you export a project timeline for clients? Again, that same API is available if we need to do something custom there, but within reporting you should be able to adjust a report that will be able to provide that data that your clients are looking for. Percy's looking for additional information on the project sync, so we'll get in touch with you there. Jessa, can a resource center time for a project if the time frame has ended, so the dates won't need to be continuously adjusted to allow for time entry? Correct, they can.
Hey Scott,
go ahead.
Just a little bit of time check with you. I think we probably have like 30 more seconds, and then we will probably want to conclude.
Okay, I'm going to go through two more questions, then I'll pass it back over to you. Can Resource Center time for a project if the time frame has ended? If we put a hard date into the product, the answer is no. We're still going to restrict them. So what we may want to do is find a different way to allow them to go past the end date for a project, and it may be just not putting that end date on there. If you want to allow the time entry past that, then maybe the end date isn't something that's required, and we can follow up with that point. Stephanie, I'll pass it back to you.
Well, thank you, Scott, and I know we're at the end of our half hour here. Thank you for all the great questions, everybody. We do have a few more, I think, that are left unanswered. We'll certainly be forwarding these on to the right people to get you answers to them. We also will be providing you a recording of this, so probably latest by Monday you'll get one in your inbox. And I wanted also just as final next steps, if you would like to, if you have professional services management and you want to speak with some of our implementation experts to hear more details, we do have a few webinars coming up in November on the 19th and the 26th, so you can certainly go and attend one of those. Go to replicon.com/implementation-webinar. If you just want to learn a little bit more about professional services management, go to replicon.com/professional-services-business, or you could also contact your account manager. So hopefully with all of those different channels and different ways, you'll get more information and get more answers to your questions. So thank you again so much for joining today, and with that, we'll sign off.